Greetings, everyone, and welcome to a podcast episode of Create Yourself Imagery, Intimacy, Innovation, a place where people from all walks of life in various backgrounds come to share their transformative personal and professional stories of resilience, clarity, confidence, empowerment, education, and so much more. They are here to share their helpful tools, resources, and affirming guidance. I'm Joyce Kyle, your global speaker, author, trainer, coach, and consultant. And if you are ready to transition, transform, and thrive, this is the podcast for you. So, if this is your first time tuning in, welcome to the show. And if you are returning, we are so glad to have you back. And as I always say, please tell a friend to tell two more friends about the show. Let's continue to transition, transform, and thrive together. And if you have not heard me share this show before, and for those who are familiar with me, you know I'm always excited and pumped up about my guests. Always, always, always. This week, as in every week, is no exception. You all know that I am very intentional about the people that I have on the show. And this week, let me tell you, this woman is as beautiful on the inside as she is the outside. I had an opportunity to meet her through a mutual acquaintance. We will talk a moment about that here shortly. But we have a mutual acquaintance that we know well, and we just instantly connected. And we're going to talk a little bit about, the journey of her and how she came into doing the things that she's doing and some things that, are coming down the pike and just some things all in between. So without further ado, let me present to some and introduce to others none other than the Dawn Adams, author, founder, CEO of OHM Publishing. So Dawn, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Joyce. Just look forward to these. We talk before, we talk during, we talk after, we just talk. And I think the key word between you and I see God doing that in my life. Anything that does not align is not there, and that's my great comfort. If you're there, if we're here and we're connecting, it's because we're in alignment. Thank you so much for having me to your show.
Thank you for saying yes. And before we start, I just wanted to highlight the mutual connection that we have.
Yes, please do.
So the mutual connection that we have is her beautiful, beautiful daughter. She has her own business ministry in her own right and gave me the opportunity to take part in one of her programs. And that is how I had the opportunity to meet you. So Dawn, I am just wanted to say before we get started with ours that you have such a lovely, lovely daughter, and
Yes,
the
thank
apple doesn't fall far from the tree, as I've gotten to know
you.
of you. So yeah, that I just wanted to highlight her and just lift her up the way that she lifts you, me, and all other women
Yeah.
the way that she does. So I just could not go into this without lifting her up first.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Being her mother is an out of body experience, meaning that when she was young, there's a song I love, Mary, Did You Know? And it was the day that God said, Did you know? I said, absolutely not. But I'm glad that I knew you first so that I could present none other than the Almighty God, right? And I said,
Yes.
I'll be her mother, but I need him to be her God, right? Because he's not going anywhere. And one day I will. And so she's going to be able to stand and still give him the glory. And she loves you all. She loves Be Well. And I'm just so proud of her. And it's funny that you say the apple don't fall far from the tree. When I was writing one of my books, I reference her as my little leaf. Because as we know, when the leaves fall off the tree, they don't, even when the wind blows, they don't go 12 miles away. They don't go very far from the tree. You can see the circle where they have fallen. And but that's not the end. It's when they begin to decay and break down. Like the Bible says, what's in the bread is in the crumb, what's in the loaf is in the crumb, what's in the leaf goes back into the ground. And I said, so now she has grown and she's feeding me and she's looking out for me and she's reminding me of things that I taught her. And it's this never-ending tree and this cycle of
Oh, I love that.
it,
That
it's,
is a
it's it's
that's a
been an experience.
beautiful analogy. Yeah. So shout out to the lovely Christina.
Christina Ray.
And now we're gonna move from Christina Ray to talk about Don J. So Don J.
Well, there's
Please,
so
in your
much.
words, please tell us and share with us about your create yourself journey. Like everyone can, they've clicked on, they can automatically see your bio, how to connect, all the things, right? But
Mhm.
what I love for people to do in this space is talk about how they got on this journey. What is their create yourself journey about? The things that may not necessarily be listed in the bio. So at this time, the floor is yours. Share what you will.
Okay, so one of the words that is a part of the name of your show is innovation. And I used to wonder, why was I always doing something? Like I can't sit still, not in an impatient way, but always creating something. And then you can't ignore that when people start to say, the things you do, it would have never even come to mind. When you start to hear things like that, you have to accept right away it's not about you. So you don't get the big head. Say God is doing this, and anything that He does is for all His people worldwide. And so, um, I read something that you asked, and you said, um, how did the journey start? How did I choose the path? And I sat there and I laughed and I said, truth be told, I didn't choose this path, it chose me. And after I told myself that, that was it. I had to get up out the bed. I said, oh Lord, this is going to turn into a whole thing. I said, but I did not choose who in their right mind, the suffering and the pain and the bone breaking and the bloodshed and what we have to go through and getting beat up by your husband. And who would choose something with the backstory? If he were to tell us up front, we probably wouldn't even finish the book. But there's no way in the world. So I said, yes, absolutely, the path chose me. Oh, but like Jesus said, for the joy set before him, when I began to see, like he told Peter, Peter, when thou art converted, strengthen the brethren. I said, you mean to tell me that what I went through wasn't for me at all? He said, turn around and look. And there was a line of millions behind me. I said, oh, hurry up, Don, hurry up, get to where you need to be, get your life right, get rid of your presumptuous sins, get in this word, eat it all once, digest it well, hide it in your heart, and go on ahead and do what God brought you here to do. So, in my books, I do talk about a lot, but sometimes I honestly still, as an author, feel that we have space to be respectful. I don't name. If I'm talking about something with a family member, I'm not going to do that. But what happens is when you did what you did to me and left, it became mine. So now it's my part of the story. Oh, I'm going to tell what happened to me. I don't have to tell who did it. If you're alive and hear it and read it, you're going to know it was you, but it's not about them. Because, see, then at that point, you're giving the enemy the glory for what he did, right? And he just really was my Goliath and saying, introducing Dawn. This is what happened to her. I am a infantile spousal abuse survivor. I found out I think I was almost 50, and God had it that I got connected with my oldest cousin on my father's side of the family that knew family stories and things like that that I would have never known because I wasn't allowed to go around them. And so that's why I'm so into pulling people through their mental anguish, things that happened to them as a child. But I learned from her that that abuse started as a baby. And she used to call and try to ask my father, "Do you want help? Do you want us to come?" And it's a story because you can't hear something like that and not feel hurt. But if you're healed, you can. So God didn't allow me to be tempted with something I couldn't handle. He waited until I wrote Joyful Noise, changing the lyrics of your past. He waited for me to be able to love my mother unconditionally from the grave. He waited for me to get healed. He waited for me to become whole because I still believe and will always believe that hurt people hurt people. So if you're not ready, Peter, if you're not converted, Peter, you need to go have a seat somewhere and let God tell you. Don't let a prophet tell you. Don't let an apostle tell you. Don't let anybody tell you that you're ready to do anything for God but God, because he will tell you. And he'll also tell you when you're not ready. So physical abuse, Right after I had my baby. I just couldn't believe it, where most women should be celebrated, right? For giving a person a baby, and then for her to turn out to be the child that she is, an absolute blessing. I said I didn't understand as a young woman, why I was on the floor, being kicked around but let me tell you something. I wasn't walking with God yet. It wasn't long after. It was probably within a year and a half. And we were in church and we were having praise and testimony service. And he brought the image back to me of me being beat up. And he asked me this question, Joyce. He said, "Did you notice that you never felt it?" It was like I was in a bubble. I never felt the impact, didn't feel it. I just saw it. He said, "You didn't bruise. There were no broken bones. My rib cage should have been broken and shattered. There was no bloodshed, nothing." And I said, "Wow, so you were always there. Like, we're the ones that's lost. He's not lost. He's omnipresent. He fills all space, all time." And so just coming up from a very physical and severely verbal abusive environment, and wanting not to be that hurt person my whole life, because I knew that I wasn't the only one. So I guess that's it. The path chose me. I chose it. I had work to do. And when I was ready and converted, God said, "Now I want you to go and give power to somebody else."
So first of all, just thank you for sharing and in sharing it in such candor, in transparency. One of the things that I love about hosting this show is, and as I mentioned at the very beginning, I'm very intentional about who I ask to show up and be a guest, because what I have learned is that my audience wants to hear real stories from real people and what it means. And that's why I always say transition, transform, and thrive. Because one thing that you lifted up, and I just so appreciative of you sharing the way that you did and bringing up certain points that I think oftentimes get lost. One of which is that people feel that there's this timetable to healing and learning and discovering. And as you mentioned, you were adult, full adult, when you learned that there's a word for what you experienced, and that the time that you were going through, you still were not quite where you needed to be in order to be able to transition to who you are destined to be. And there's this timetable that I think sometimes society puts on those of us who have gone through trauma and experienced certain, experiences like you've had, like I've had.
Mhm.
And, oh, you're supposed to be over it by now. And you're
Oh,
supposed to
yeah.
get over it. And
Well,
how dare you even speak on it? And
okay.
that's another thing that you mentioned that I really hope that the audience takes away is the fact that, yeah, what happened to you is real, it's authentic, it's genuine, it is your experience, and you have the right to express it, to talk about it, and to share it. As a coach and someone who has done peer sessions with individuals who have survived trauma, you know, I can tell you there have been a number of individuals who have felt like, oh, I can't speak on that, or I shouldn't say that. The shame is on that individual who harmed you. How dare they?
Yeah.
But I have used several other women that have immediately came to mind as you were sharing. We have used these experiences as a testimony to help someone else. So at the time, like you said, at the time, you don't understand, why is this happening to me? And what you are sharing, what I feel like I'm getting from this, and what I know has been true for me, is that it's not necessarily been about you. It was for a bigger, a better, higher purpose. Is to make you stronger and be an example to show other women and men too, because let us be clear, there are men who gone through experiences,
Yes.
like ours as well. But it is to say that what was supposed to harm us, what was supposed to kill us, what was supposed to break us down mentally, spiritually, emotionally, financially, all the things that was supposed to demonize us and break us, it
Mhm.
actually was the breakthrough that not only we needed, but that someone else behind us through our testimony could
Mhm.
be healed and recognize there is thriving and living on the other side of this trauma and this pain. So I
Mhm.
thank you for sharing it and sharing in the ways that you have shared. So thank you for that. Thank you.
I appreciate that. I really do. Like you said, it's a conversation, and it's like we used to have a game. I don't know if it was the crab, that basket of crab, and they would hook onto each other, and you say something, and then you finish, and I hook onto that. That last part that you said, Joyce, I used to ask God, how come I volunteered to say it? He said, because you got the email. But fear. People, God needs soldiers that are not fearful. That's why, and it's no disrespect, I didn't write the Bible, all right? But it does say, as much we want to send people to the outer abyss and all that, I kept reading to the bottom and it said, and the fearful. So you can talk about this kind of person all you want, and you can talk about that kind of person all you want. There are things that God put us here. He invested in us. He intends to get his investment back. We know what happened to the one talking about I hid it under a rock because I was scared. He said, oh, no, 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 I can't deal with nothing fearful. He said, that's why it's going to end up in the abyss, because out of fear comes torment and you're not delivered. That's why you can't do it. The Bible told me there's a loophole for us. There is therefore now no condemnation to them that you can't say nothing to me. What you got? God told me to do it. You better believe it. If he tells me to say it, he said, don't just say it. I said, I need you to write the vision and make it plain. And so you best understand, if you don't want to hear the truth, please turn the button and change the channel or do anything you need to do, because it's definitely going to come. But we are not people that should be fearful. We can't get God's job done. We can't hide what we have under a bushel. Is nothing to be ashamed of. And I think that's the biggest thing. But you have to fear God more than your own fear, right? You got to cancel out that fear and that shame and say, well, if I do it, oh, people are going to talk. But what about this? What if you don't and God's going to talk? Like he's the one I'm interested in, right? I'm not trying to
Yeah,
get in trouble
yeah.
with him.
Yeah, and
No, no,
and that and
no,
that
no.
that's why I said this is so important to have these types of conversations. And we want, I always say to the listeners that it's not about who you believe, how you believe, that,
Right.
everyone believes differently.
That's right.
And so this is not a you must. But what we are saying is in space that regardless to the who and the how, this is how we're showing up, this is how we're talking, how we're sharing, but tap into how and who you believe, because I believe there
Yeah.
is something within all of us that we are purposed to do. And it can't be done in fear because the word will not go. But what I do know for certain is that it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Now, I chose you to do this, I chose you for this assignment. But if you choose to not, I'm just going to take it away and I'm going to give it to somebody who is going to do what
And
I
that's it.
said has to go forth because it's
And
the
and that's
word is
it.
going forth regardless. Duff said, so with that, I'm going to switch gears for just a moment because we have has had several offline conversations on that. So
And
I want to
several
talk,
several more to
and we'll
have.
have absolutely, absolutely. So I want to talk because I know that one of the things that several people have shared with me, and that's about this author's journey that they are interested in, want to start in, or maybe they've had a book inside of them and have not gotten it out. But I
Okay.
know that you are someone who you've been in this 30 plus years.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
you literally have written the book, the t-shirt, and all the things. So with that being said, I want you to talk to us about your publishing company, like just the vision of starting it, the joys, the disheartening parts,
Oh,
and
yeah,
talk to us about the
I
person who may
will.
be on the fence with having this book that they need to birth. What would you say to them?
I would say this, you're not on the outside. And actually, I want to bring to the top is that it's not just some people that have a book, all of us do, because the Bible says that we are written epistles. That's a letter read of men. Our life is a story. I don't care who you are. If it's a story about how your heart broke when you lost your cat or you didn't get the puppy you asked for, write the book. Somebody else's heart is broke because they lost a cat and the puppy, because we overcome by one another's testimony. Somebody needs to know, no, you're not silly. Oh, why are you crying over your cat? That was my cat. You took a day off because your dog died. I'm gonna take a week off. You don't even understand. That dog was my companion. They love unconditionally. We need to stop hurting each other, right? And so everybody's got a story. And my mentor, she said that everybody's story deserves to be heard, right? And one of the things I want to encourage you, I have another name, Joyce, that you don't know about. Maybe I typed and sent it in an email, but I am considered the do-it-yourself queen. Oh my God. So out of abuse comes, oh, the inability to function well, the inability sometimes to keep jobs consistently, just a constant mental anguish. You're crying on the way to work. Maybe you're crying in the middle of the day. And it gets hard when you just don't know what to do. God always took care of me. But when it came to my writing, I said, well, you told me to tell the story, and you know some of these publishing companies want to control, and I can't be controlled, especially when God tells me to do something. That's my faith. According to my faith be it unto me, I can't put that on anyone else. But he said, do it yourself. He said, you know how to do things yourself. And I walked right into my partner to till this day, Barnes and Noble, where my books are listed, where I do my book signings. And there was a book and it said how to publish your own book. I didn't even read the whole book, Joyce. I read what I needed to read. I read the outline and the steps. I went, and back then, sweetheart, we didn't have these fancy computers and cell phones. I had a brother typewriter. I typed so my speed was so fast, I would type, then I'd have to stop for a second for the keys to catch up to me. And so that was how, and I literally typed, edited, and I still do my own typesetting. I still do my own editing. I do all my book covers because I don't have the time. You're not telling me what I can't say. I know how to be professional. I know how to love, right? We were taught that early on. And so how to write letters as a secretary, how to take, let it all be positive. Don't let any negative words. So years and years of editing experience. So I went ahead, bought this book. I typed my first book entitled The Promiscuous Life because that was my most recent role and story before I came in the fold. And I printed out those pages. I I manually reversed and did the page numbering. So I did all this machinery. It comes in with a template and it just, you type it. It just, I had to do all that, flipping the pages opposite, making sure the numbers were right, making sure things were lined up. And I would go to Staples and I would say if I wanted 100 books, I had to go and have that copied. So they would copy those pages for me and they would cut them. I stuck with 5.5 by 8.5 because it's easier to deal with. Then I went and I looked up on Epson's website and I found that they had a one-sided high gloss cover because I wasn't doing nothing shabby. I wasn't stapling it, I wasn't spiraling it. It was going to be a perfect bound book no matter what. I did a basic image on the front. I went and I took one box. I dropped those 100 cut copies with 100 book covers, right? I shipped it off to a company called 48 Hour Books. In a week or less, they shipped it back to me. I had a perfect, come on, Juice. Joyce, I had a perfect bound book. I said, y'all in trouble now. I was writing books like I was losing my mind. I had 8 books. I've got a total of 14. Some of them I retired. If it's not relevant in my life anymore, I feel like I lose the juice. Um, Some I may bring back, but I said that to say this: your story doesn't get edited by anyone that wasn't in it. Do you understand me? It's your story. You edit grammatically, but you never let anyone say, oh, don't say that. Or if I were you, I wouldn't say that. Then don't say the whole story because I want the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So, living here today, zoom, zoom, zoom. The name of my company is OHM Publishing. And people don't know that the OHM stands for Open Heart Ministry because just about my first article, it was just an article when I came in the fold. God started dealing with me about my environment, right? And I remember when I realized that my relationship with Him is so transparent, the first thing I was at work and I said, you know what? Honesty is the best policy. And I just started writing. And I ended up with 2 pages. I'm like, what are you doing? And that was my first article. And after that, I did the book. And now I have gone all the way to being an award winner, which you know. So can you imagine what it feels like? I'm not just the author, but I'm also the publisher. I win twice. I win twice. And so I was doing something at home one day, and God said, I need you to write again. It had been 24 years. I'm sorry, I was wrong. I got distracted. And you might ask me something later, and you'll find out why. But I started writing. He sent someone into my life, and they lit my furnace, and I got back on it. And in a year, I had written 2 books that won International Impact Book Awards, went to a beautiful gala. And now here where I'm a podcaster. It's like, not overnight. I'm not going to tell anybody it's not overnight, but you're never going to win in the flight. You're only going to win in the fight.
I like that. I like that. And so I think that's a good segue then, as we are starting to take that decline and
Mm-hmm.
start to get towards the end of our
Yeah.
conversation together. I would like for you to talk a little bit about you, because you mentioned that about the distractions. So, we tend to get distracted by people, places, and things sometimes, especially when we are on that cusp of breakthrough into our level of greatness. Then, oftentimes here comes the distractions. So, for those who are listening, I would like for you to just talk a little bit about what distracted you, and then how did you get back on track to, fully actually answer the call? Because you said that, okay, well, God spoke to you and said, okay, this is what I need you to do. But what got you there, so that our listeners can know we all get distracted, and this is what happened to me. This is how I got to the other side.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to be real brief and real direct. Relationships. Um, my emotions, attachment issues, not wanting to deal with my loneliness, realizing that that's the only way you're going to get to know yourself. I say that if you don't like being in a room alone by yourself, why should somebody else? You really need to be whole before you go into a union and before you have children, right? So again, hurt people hurt people. So I'm going to say always having to have a boyfriend, always having to have a man, always having to be married. Oh my God. For me, I love marriage and there's no one more romantic than me. But when I tell you, when I look things over, that was not where I shined. I was a good woman, a good wife, pay a lot of attention. But God's over here sometimes. Hello, I'm a little jealous here. I need you to do some things for me. I need some of your love. I need some of your attention. So that's the answer. What made me turn around? When I looked at my life, and I'm 62, and I have spent 45 years chasing after men or them chasing after me, I said, enough is enough. It's me and God now. And if he has somebody else for me at this stage, it will definitely be his choice. So I can't lie about that. It was definitely relationship, was distractions.
Thank you so much for your candor and your sharing because I really want people to be clear that, life happens, distractions happen, and, this may be a conversation that we'll have another time. So
Yeah.
I'm putting you on the spot by saying we're going to have a part two because,
Okay.
as you know, this podcast is called Create Yourself Imagery, Intimacy, Innovation.
Yes.
And
Yes.
the intimacy piece is part of what you just talked about, and so again, we'll have a conversation on a different day where maybe we
Very
will
good.
just hone in just on those three eyes that I've created and the why behind them. So with that being said, look, I always ask our guests as we are closing. You've already shared so many great gems. So let me just start there by saying you've already shared a lot. With that, though, I always ask our clients, excuse me, our guests, if there are any tools, resources, gems, anything that they would definitely want the audience to know. And then we're going to talk about what's coming up next for you in a moment.
Okay. All right. Well, my final word to everybody would be this, don't get used to abuse, right? And that's a tool. You have to believe that, and then you have to find a way to use it in your life. Don't get used to abuse. What tools do I need for that to happen? Is it talking to someone? Is it meditation? Is it journaling? You have to basically create your own tools to accomplish that project. The project is don't get used to abuse. So I am on a lower scale than what you do, but I am a certified life coach, life and business building, obviously. And I'm a tool, right? And so, I'm always available for clients for what the type of tool I am. I'm not a fork, I'm not a knife, I'm a spoon, right? So you wouldn't come to me for financial support or things like that, but getting through mental anguish and getting out of abusive situations, I actually have a three-step program for that. How to physically get out of a dangerous home. So,
Which is why I know there's going to be a part two. um, because anyone who knows me and has followed me any length of time, they know that this is, that's a topic that's very important and dear to my
yes,
heart. And so I'm absolutely going to be asking you, well, I guess I'm asking you now. Uh, we're going to talk about this at another time and
yes,
and come up with a part two. So just be on the lookout for that, listeners.
I
It's
will.
coming. And
Definitely.
with that, I do want to ask you, as I guess we have two questions. So, one, what do you have that's coming down the pipeline that you would like for our listening audience to know about, hear about, support you? How can we show up for Dawn Adam?
Okay, so you set it off. We're here to talk, right? And I'm about real talk and calm talk and transparent talk. So God asked me to start a podcast. I didn't want to, but I'm not used to telling him no. I just couldn't see myself doing all that talking. And I'm like, are you kidding? As much as you like to talk. So on May 17th will be the premiere of my new first and only podcast called Café Talk. Why are you laughing? Called Café Talk. And I will be on YouTube, and all of the listeners of Joyce Kyles will have access through her email. She can blast you however once the link goes out. And then she and I are collaborating on July 17th. What is it with the 17th? We're coming together as authors. We are going to do a dual sister book signing. Yes, in the heart of Atlanta, Georgia. It's going to be a wonderful, elegant book signing extravaganza. Yes, it is going to be that. And I have another book release, Finding America. So if you follow me on any of my social media, you will find out that I am not just ready to help people one by one. I'm ready to win a world and a nation. Finding America again, it's closer than you think.
I love it. I love it. And the reason I'm laughing is because, we say all the time, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. So,
What?
so I'm so appreciative to you for making time for us today and creating space for us and
Yeah.
walking and operating in your calling and your purpose. So we look forward to seeing more of you, celebrating you, following you. Looking forward to our collaborative efforts on July
Yes,
17th.
that's gonna be
So I'm
fun.
as excited about all of those pieces. And the very last question that I have for you is, where of all the places that are listed below uh, our podcast, where do you want and desire for your deepest connection with our listeners?
So if you want to purchase books, I just have a very basic, non-busy, it's really a website designed just for authors. It's just for our books. So booksbydawn.com if you want to purchase. But I am on Facebook and I do tend to use that. I'm going to be using Instagram more. I think that was a generational tool, but I've got to get in there. I'm like, oh my God, y'all tweeting, texting, doing too much for Dawn. But I have to keep up, right? So I'm going to say, most times I will do a reel with announcing anything. My book, actually, Finding America Again, I actually found out that authors are doing trailers for their books like movies. And God showed me how to do that, and it's amazing. It's so exciting. So, my trailers, introduction, anything that we're doing together or separate will absolutely be on Facebook. And I think I sent you the link, but you can find me under Dawn Adams. Now, don't get confused. There's a couple pages on there because I didn't know what I was doing and I kept creating accounts. But you should see the most recent one. Look at the dates.
All right. Well, look, I thank you so much for your time, your candor, your generosity, just all the pieces that make you you. So thank you so much for, again, just walking in your purpose and your passion and making time and space for us. Thank you for being here.
What a pleasure. I've been excited about this. I said, this is special. And Joyce, we have a lot of work to do, but we need each other, right? You be my
Absolutely.
Joseph, and Joshua, and I'll be your Caleb.
All right, that works for me. I have a good
Okay.
friend that's she's Ruth and Naomi. That's her thing.
Yes,
So I
yes.
I am here for all of it. I thank you for your time, and of course, my listeners, thank you,
Thank you,
because without
guys.
you, could not do what I do. So with that
No.
being said, as I always tell you all, please go forward and create the life that you desire and deserve, and remember that you can do so at any age. Let's continue to transition, transform, and thrive together.